Essentially, when the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to the three seers in Fatima in 1917, Jacinta, Francisco, and Lucia, 7 years old, 9 years old, and 11 years old, she gave them 3 secrets about our time. 3 secrets to help guide us through the troubles that we would experience. But first one was that hell exists. She gave them a vision of that. Second one, this is in 1917, so it's in the midst of World War I, right? And World War I was called the war to end all wars. No one thought there would be anything coming out after that. And she said, if the world doesn't convert, a second and worse war will follow. But the third secret wasn't revealed right away. The third secret, she said, was to be kept later on. It was a secret for the church. And it's something that's been in my mind a lot lately, these last months. The final secret had one specific component to it, that Mary said there would be a sort of diabolical disorientation of the faithful that would come over the church in our times. In a sense, people wouldn't know what was right or what was wrong anymore. There'd be great confusion. If I could choose one word to describe my experience of the Catholic Church in our times, I think it would be just that. It's confusing. A lot of the time, I'm just confused. I feel as if the Catholic Church is going through a sort of identity crisis. In time, we don't really know who we are, what we believe, and so we're confused about how we are to do what we do. And I feel especially bad for the laity, because you're going to see this in every new priest that you meet. He's going to have different answers to questions, a different direction that he's going down, a different vision on what it means to be the church. All that just adds to the confusion, the disorientation of how we are to be in our times. And the hardest thing about it for me is the fact that I know deep in my heart that I don't have the perfect answer to the question. I don't have an all-encompassing way to say this is for sure exactly what we need to do. And that is what keeps me up at night at times. It's what gnaws at me during the week. It's what I take to my prayer every single day. It keeps me going back night after night to McDonald's for a consolation meal. At least this Big Mac makes sense right now. Life can be so confusing. And in that confusion, I began to ponder the question, how is God going to redeem the world in our times? And that question made me ask another question. How has God always redeemed the world? When the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, crying out to heaven for freedom, God came to them in a gentle whisper in a burning bush. And when the Jews were subjugated by the Romans, crying out for the Messiah, God came to them in a gentle whisper at the Annunciation. The incarnation of Christ in the womb of a virgin in Galilee was a whisper. The crucifixion of Christ on the cross, in the midst of mockery, doubt, confusion, and darkness, was a whisper. The resurrection of the Son of God from the dead in the tomb in the early hours of the morn, when all the world was wrapped in darkness, it was a whisper. This is how God redeems the world. While evil is always crying out in a great and thunderous voice, causing the earth and all its inhabitants to tremble in its quake, God redeems the world with a whisper. And that's what God did in Fatima 102 years ago today in 1917. In the 20th century, the world would become drunk with blood. 2 world wars, 100 million lives offered up as holocausts upon the ideological altars of communism. The catastrophic apostasy of so many once believing Catholic nations. The loss of innumerable priests and nuns, and the diabolical disorientation of the faithful. And how did God redeem the world in the 20th century? In a gentle whisper to 3 shepherd children in a small country village in Fatima. It was there that a great light burst through the clouds and shone upon a people dwelling in darkness and the shadow of death. And what was the message of this gentle woman? To rise up, to take up arms and fight, to rebel, to overthrow, or to run and to hide? No. She told them to whisper the words of a rosary every single day, to whisper prayers of reparation for sins against her Immaculate Heart, for the conversion of sinners, and for peace in the world. While all the world was crying out in a rage against God and against man, He came to us in a gentle whisper in the presence of His mother. This is how God redeems the world. This is how God is redeeming us right now in a whisper. What in your life is crying out for redemption? What are the storms that you yourself are passing through in these times? The world screams. Our problems scream. God comes to redeem us in a whisper. We just have to be attentive to the sound of His voice. As I went to pray with so many questions in my mind about the confusion in the church in our times, the confusion in the world in these times, I was asking God for an answer, crying out for redemption. But at that time, I felt Him reminding me of the lyrics of a song I heard long ago. It was a love song. When I came to you with my bad dreams and my fears, it was easy to see that I'd been crying. Seems like everywhere I turn, catastrophe it rains. But when you kissed my lips with my mouth so full of questions, my worried mind you quiet. Place your hands on my face, close my eyes and say, love is a poor man's food. Don't prophesize. And when I heard that, I understood why God redeems the world with a whisper. Why He redeems our life slowly, gently, quietly. Because it's not an answer that we're really looking for. It's not an answer that we really need. It's a presence. It's a voice that says, I'm with you through it all, and I'm not going anywhere. That's what the gentle whisper in Nazareth proclaimed at the Incarnation. It's what the gentle whisper on Calvary proclaimed from the cross. That's what the gentle whisper from a mother proclaimed as she looked over the world at Fatima. I'm with you through it all, and I'm not going anywhere. And in the end, my immaculate heart will triumph. That's the whisper of redemption. And in one moment, I will whisper a gentle word over bread and wine. And that whisper will have more power than all the screams of the world, than all the fires of hell with all their fury could ever threaten. For in that whisper, the Word will again become flesh in our presence, gently, softly. He'll come to redeem us in a whisper. And that whisper will carry one eternal proclamation for all who have ears to hear it, for all who have eyes to see it. I'm with you. In the midst of your confusion, I'm with you. In the midst of your struggles, I'm with you. In the midst of whatever hell you're passing through in this time, I'm not going anywhere. And if it seems like everywhere you turn, catastrophe reigns, come to him with your mouth so full of questions, and with his kiss, your worried mind he'll quiet. For love is a poor man's food. Don't prophesize. Don't worry. Don't ask questions. Just receive the word and let him redeem your life in a whisper.